time with family, staying active, doing what you love. We understand how important it is to live your best life, even as times are changing. At Holzer, we strive to help every patient achieve their best health during every stage of life. With more options for care through in-person and virtual visits, we are dedicated to providing you with excellent care every time. Live your best life with Holzer.
Welcome to this episode of the Talk of the Town podcast, brought to you by the Gallipolis County Chamber of Commerce and Holzer Health System. I'm Josh Wellington, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce here in Gallipolis County, and joining me today for episode number 29 of the Talk of the Town podcast from the Gallipolis Railroad Freight Station Museum, Jerry Davis. Jerry, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, lots going on over on, I guess that's 3rd Avenue.
Yes.
So, I guess we can maybe like the upper end of 3rd. People have seen this building coming to life, the bright yellow paint, and seen the cars coming in and stuff, and a lot of stuff to talk about. But I want to start with, how did this come to be? I mean, there was an abandoned train station on 3rd Avenue, and some people took a liking to trying to bring it back to life, and here we are. And so just talk a little bit about how this all got underway.
Well, the station originally closed about 1981, was the last time it was in use. Our understanding is it went to the Park District. They had it for a few years. Then it eventually was transferred to the city of Gallipolis. And in the spring of 2016, there were rumors floating around, since the building was in such disrepair, that they were seriously considering tearing the building down. And when those rumors started to appear, a gentleman named Jim Love, who used to work there as a telegrapher when he was in college, got a group of us together, and we had a meeting or two and talked about trying to save the building. It was built in 1901, and we did not want to see the building go and lose the railroad history for Gallipolis and for Gallia County in the area. So we got a group together in 2016. We formed our organization, our bylaws, elected our officers. We became an official 501c3, and the city of Gallipolis deeded it over to us for $1.
Wow.
And so 2016, then into 17, we got busy with plans to restore the building. We had it checked to see if it was structurally sound to be renovated, and it was deemed structurally sound. So we got busy on our project then and applied for one of our first state grants, capital budget grants.
So, other than Jim, does anybody else in the group have that railroad, I guess, history, or were there other people who were employees of the railroad that are involved, or is it people who just appreciated the history, or a mix of both?
I would say a mix of both. Okay. There are some that had railroad connections, but all of us have appreciation for history, okay. And we wanted to keep as much of that history alive and not lose it.
So you and I talked briefly before we got started. There was a point where you were at before. I think it's probably before the grants, when you were looking for just donations to get started.
Yes. And
you had a local partner step up and say, hey, we believe in you, and that guy kind of got you kick started. Talk a little bit about how that kind of happened and what it led to going forward funding wise, and how this thing has been funded along the way.
Okay. To start with, we were looking for local donations. And when people became aware that we were trying to save the building, trying to restore the building, it generated a great deal of interest. And we had small donations, we had large donations, but one of the things that really, I would say, propelled us forward, Ohio Valley Bank, and they have their slogan about investing in your town.
Community first.
Community first. They notified us that they wanted to meet with us. They met with us. And that spring, they presented us with a check for $12,000 to start work on the Freight Station Museum. And it was kind of like it opened countless doors. People felt like that if OVB trusted us enough to make that kind of donation, that we must be on the up and up.
It lends credibility.
Yes, it did. And then from that point in time on, there were other local businesses, other local sponsors came forward with donations, and we were able to start to work on the building. And of course, Ryan Smith was our representative at that time, and he talked to us. We became aware of the capital budget applications that we could fill out. And we started from that point to looking at state funding with the applications and all. And it's amazing. People will stop by. For instance, last summer there was a gentleman and his wife stopped by. They went through the station, still under construction to say the least.
Right.
They looked at the freight cars. Very nice couple. As they were leaving, and they were from out of town, the gentleman handed us a check for $500 and wished us well.
Wow.
So that was just awesome. And we've had all kinds of awesome stories like that.
And for people, just to let people know, you also have a membership side of the organization where people can be a member of.
Yes.
Just like you can be a member of, any kind of museum in any situation. So people can come by and join and become members.
Oh, yes.
And reap the benefits of that.
They can pick up an application form. The membership is $25 a year. And we'd be glad to have them.
And, I was, before we go into kind of what people can expect, I was unsure when I first went over and sat down and, the chamber has volunteered to help with, marketing strategies and different things and trying to help as much as we can. But just to see, when I first thought Railroad Museum, I thought, the lanterns and the tools and the cars. But you've kind of went in various directions. There's model train component, the history component, the maps and things like that. This is not just a go look at some cars sitting on the rail and this is what an office would have looked like back in that time period. There's a multitude of learning opportunities for all ages here.
Yes, that is one of our goals, and it is a goal now. It's a long-term goal, is to have an active learning center. A place where people of all ages can come and appreciate the railroad history, not only in southeastern Ohio, but what the railroads did for the United States during its developmental years. And we have tried to include the historical aspect. We have lanterns, locks, keys, a lot of historical railroad tools are on display. By the same token, we have model railroad. We will have a couple of model railroad displays for people that are interested in that. The memorabilia that people have given us, maps and pictures and everything, that will be on display. And so we've tried to have a variety of things. And for young and old alike, but especially for the school kids. Because that is an era of history and a way of life that is fading. And,
exactly.
And we don't want that part of our history to be lost.
Right. You don't want to. I think it's important to make sure that future generations continue to learn not just about railroad, but anything in history.
Yes.
Because if it's overlooked, then by the time the generation that would have been teaching it is gone, then the history so goes with it.
Yes. And as you pointed out, not only the railroad history, but when we were working with the Ohio Connection, the old Ohio Historical Society, and applied for the process to be on the National Register of Historic Places, we qualified under a couple of different categories, and one of them was architectural history. The structure of the building, the way it was put together with mortise and tenon or the wooden peg method, slate roof, how they used the copper nails, etc., and why, and the history of the structure of the building alone.
Right. We're doing this podcast, a lot to promote April the 30th.
Yes.
The grand opening, a lot of fun activities. We'll be there for a ribbon cutting. But there's just so much there for people to enjoy. People of all ages, and you have activities for people of all ages.
Yes. Bossard Memorial Library has partnered with us, and so they will be there for the younger generation. They have a railroad craft. The kids are going to be working on a railroad whistle, making one of those, decorating it. They have story time provided by the library. They have engineer caps for the older kids. I hope I can find one that fits. And they have goodie bags for the other kids. One teachers organization is going to be there with the non-permanent tattoos with railroad items. There's a gentleman setting up the putt-putt golf, and that will be included. There'll be food, refreshments available if people are interested in purchasing it. The older and younger generation will be interested in the Model A's. The local automobile club is going to be there with their cars on display. The Shriners fire truck's going to be there. All the cars will be open. There'll be a model train exhibit working, and of course the station, will be open also. And so we've got a variety of different things that we hope it will appeal to all ages.
It's a great time to come out and experience some history right here in our own backyard, and also support a great organization. And you look at, it's not just railroad history, but you and I have talked, and Dr. Thomas, who's also on your board. And,
yes.
I've talked to some folks over at John G. and I've encouraged your two organizations to kind of work together because of that, the crossroad of Black history in Gallia County as well as railroad history in Gallia County kind of intersects right here.
Yes.
People, of all color took trains to town and, hopped on a train, and that, I guess, combined with what you would call the hobo culture. And,
yes.
Those are stories that I think if a kid is hearing, it's almost like fiction. To hear the stories of these people who traveled America,
yes,
on trains, and nobody knew they were on there. They're hopping on and off of moving trains and riding them to wherever you were going, and jumping off when you got where you were going before you got to the station, and that kind of thing. It's a big part of our history, and kids have been brought up recently on things that have trains, whether it's Thomas the Tank or people with model trains where their parents have passed them down. So I think having that model train exhibit and those kind of things will do nothing but help bring more and more families, and it's a great opportunity for the schools to bring kids in. So
we were very pleased before the COVID situation appeared. We had taken between 500 or 600 kids through the station and the cars, and the station, we were just starting to work on it. And an interesting story, the first year, some of the school students that visited, and they were from the two local schools in the Gallipolis city, and of course when we're open we hope to be able to expand to Gallia County and neighboring counties, and even to Mason County. Would be delighted. The students were there, and they had scheduled about 15 minutes for the stop. And the teachers all, I think, were amazed and even made comments to us. We had no idea the kids would be this interested. 15 minutes isn't enough. Next spring when we come back, we'll schedule about an hour. And the next spring we had an hour scheduled, and we had a group of students that were here this past fall, and they were there for an hour, and we didn't begin to get the questions answered. The kids are amazed, most of them. Now some of them not, but a lot of them were amazed, especially with the cabooses. Well, what was this for? What'd they do in this? What's this? What's that? And so it's been surprising, the response, and that's one of the things that we want to do. Our circus car that was built in the 40s, that was last used by Ringling Brothers, we want to renovate it into an area where people can have meetings. People have asked for parties, place to party, a reception, this, that, and the other. But we want to have seating in there. We want to have the audio visuals in there where teachers can actually bring groups of students in. They can be seated. They can do lessons, have lessons, programs, and everything there in that circus car. So that's one of our goals we're actively pursuing too.
And I think that kids in general, if you give them a reason to be inquisitive, they're ready.
Yes.
Their minds are open. They're learning at paces that we've never seen before with technology. So having something for them to be inquisitive about, I think, is a really good thing. Let's talk a little bit about the work that's went into this. I mean, it turned yellow pretty quick, pretty early on, and that has history behind it too.
Yes.
It was CSX yellow.
No, that was Chesapeake and Ohio.
Chesapeake and Ohio.
Chesapeake and Ohio colors. When we first came in possession of the building, we found pieces of wood on that building that had the yellow on it. And of course, Chesapeake and Ohio was in that building. And if you look at their logo, Chessie is their cat, and the black cat, that is the yellow background to the Chesapeake and Ohio colors. And we took the samples to Sherwin-Williams, and they were able to mix the collars for us. But the first summer that we really got started, 2017 and all, we put between the primer and the final yellow coat, which is called Trinket, we put 40 gallons of paint on that railroad station. And it all went on with a brush.
Wow.
There was no spray technique. So, that summer was a busy summer. The people in Gallia County, we had 3 or 4 different people. We looked for slate because the station literally had about 3 or 4 holes in the roof. The back eave was completely gone. We had to restore it. We collected somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,300 pieces of slate.
Wow.
That we went to different places, and the people gave us the slate. We gathered it up and brought it back. We used over 1,000 pieces to restore that roof.
Wow.
And we got the copper nails because that's how the old slate roofs were put on, and we put the roof back in that form. And so, and the inside, we've tried to restore the office as it was. The star brick, which was made Nelsonville and Logan.
I was just getting ready to bring that up. If you want to talk about a spectacle, when you walk in and see that floor with that brick, it's pretty intense.
Yes. The floor in the freight area was just the sand base that was left. A lot of the brick walked off. The brick on the dock disappeared once the station closed. People came, got it. One of our city managers took up about half of the brick that was left in the freight area and put it in storage so it wouldn't disappear also. They graciously gave that back to us. Anyone that had a star brick sidewalk, patio, people wanted to get rid of it, we gathered it up. And those brick weigh anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 pounds. And you've got a load when you gather them up. We even went as far as Logan and Nelsonville, where we found star brick. And this summer, with our second capital budget grant that we received, we were able to put the star brick floor back in the freight area, and that took approximately 4,000 star brick.
Wow.
And so that was quite an interesting spectacle. A lot of people stopped by just to see them laying the star brick.
You mentioned the capital budget grant. That's been instrumental in getting this museum to where it's at and where it's going to be. For people who don't know, talk a little bit about what that capital budget grant is and how you've been able to use that to promote, to move things forward.
Well, the capital budget is through the state of Ohio, and you can apply for it every 2 years. And in essence, we wrote a scenario about this is what we would spend the money for. This is our goal. This is our objectives for the museum. This is what we want to do. And then each time we submitted an itemized statement, more or less, you would say, this is specifically how the money would be spent. And we have applied once again. The deadline was in March. And we sent our application in to Representative Stevens and our Congressman Peterson, Senator. And we listed a budget request for the coming years, additional things that we would like to do to the station. And we submitted it. The Legislature General Assembly's committee had an additional sheet of different questions, and we had to answer those specifically. It was due in mid-March. We submitted it, and they have just now started, the subcommittee is reviewing each one of the grant requests. Once they have made their decision, the last time that I talked to his office, they did not have a specific date yet as to when the announcement of awards would be made. And if we are fortunate enough to be funded again, there's not been a specific date when the funds would be released. The last time, due to the COVID situation, the governor held the funding for over a year before it was released. But it's just not, here's the money, you spend it. Right. You have to have an itemized statement. You have to have the estimates. You have to have an engineer sign off on it. And then, once the work is completed, the Facilities Commission in Ohio is responsible for dispersing the money. Once the work is done, then you send them the final statement. This is the estimate. This is the completed work. And then they release the money for that aspect that you have completed. And the money is deposited in our account. And we have been very fortunate. The one lady in the Facilities Commission, his name is Jessica. She is the one that has been over our grants, both that we have received. She came down here before we did anything when we got the first grant and visited the stations. She spent over a day with us explaining this is how the procedure is, this is the process that you go through. And ever since then, we send her photographs of the different stages that we're going through. And she's looking forward to coming back down there. So we've been very fortunate to have an excellent contact in the Facilities Commission.
You guys have a great group of people in your organization, but even as great a group as it is, you can't do this with just that group of people.
No.
You've had volunteers from several organizations. What's the difference they've made in getting this to a point where it's ready to open now?
Oh, a tremendous amount of difference. And I will use Ohio Valley Bank as an example, their contact days. I would say each summer from 2017 on, even till this current year, they have had anywhere from 6 to 8 people. And they have been at the railroad freight station at least maybe 2 times a year. And the work that they have done for us would have taken our group of volunteers forever to do. Like we moved Rick from the storage building to the freight station. For our volunteer group, that would have taken forever to have done. Different things at their age, a more youthful age, shall we say, they have been able to do that has helped us tremendously. When we got our first rail cars in here, they actually used the old rail carriers and the old tie carriers to place ties, to put the rail down, and to spike it in. And so the work that they have done has been priceless. It would have cost us a humongous sum of money for us to have paid for the work that has been done. They have painted, they have done woodwork, they have been a tremendous help. And there are other organizations
absolutely,
that have come in, and it's been priceless. Mm-hmm. It's been priceless.
One final topic to touch on before we wrap up is, we've got a couple of minutes. What does the future look like, in your opinion, for the station?
The station, to me, for the future, is an ongoing project. It's not, yes, the 30th is our grand opening, but we're not done.
Right.
We're not done by any manner of means. There are many different projects that we have in mind. With almost an acre of ground, we have the inside museum, yes, but we want to have an outside rail yard museum, so to speak. We want to have the old rail cars that our students, the people can see. This is a passenger car. This is how people traveled.
Right.
In the early 1900s, we want to have that rail yard accompanying the inside museum. and any activities that are related educationally to the railroad history and to the history of the United States, and especially southeastern Ohio. We want to be able to include that. And when different people stop by with different ideas, we certainly listen and we certainly encourage them. So we don't want it to be something that's stagnant. Oh, here it is. We want you to be able to come back each year and visit and see something new, something different, something appealing. And it is amazing the people that have already stopped at the station, and they have been from northern Ohio, central Ohio, to see the rail cars. We have a 1945 Porter engine on track, and we have had 6 or 7 different people stop, and they have spent over an hour or two doing nothing but photographing the Porter because they've never seen one up close. They've never seen a real Porter engine, and they are willing to travel from central Ohio, northern Ohio, to come down to see that. And of course, then their next question is, where's a good place to eat? And the ladies want to know, where do you shop?
Exactly.
And so I think it's something that will help our area of southeastern
I think you're
Ohio.
exactly right. The more things that people can do while they're, I mean, we're blessed to have places like that, like the Train Museum, the John G. Center,
Oh, yes.
the French Art Colony, the Our House.
The people locally that are interested in that and support it, it's just been amazing. And like you, having me here today to talk about it, we appreciate that so very much.
I appreciate you being here. Just want to remind everybody, it is April the 30th. Things kick off at
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. And like you said, refreshments, tours. We'll have the ribbon cutting. Stop out for that right at 10. You'll have all the displays. The model train is coming together.
Yes.
If you've not seen, most people have not seen a table layout the size of this thing.
No.
This is one humongous undertaking when it comes to this model train display, and just the artifacts, the memorabilia, and having like Jim, who had worked in that office,
yes.
knew from memory what the office would have looked like then. So you're able to get that set up, be multiple photograph opportunities, and it's just a great way to spend a day showing the kids, or just if you're a historian yourself, stop by.
Yes.
We encourage you to take full advantage of this, and like we said, there's other places to go as well. If you're into history and learning, we have so many great opportunities in Gallipolis and in Gallia County where people can learn, and not just about the history of Gallia County, but how Gallia County played in the overall history of the area. From, I did not know that we have one of Lafayette's jackets.
Yes.
In Gallipolis.
Please.
That's Smithsonian quality. So I encourage you all to come out and be a part of this. Jerry, I can't thank you enough for stopping by. Your enthusiasm with this. I'll be honest, I joined as a member, and I had zero knowledge or interest a year ago of anything train. But your excitement and your dedication to this, as well as all the other folks that are involved, is very contagious. And I think that lends itself as to why everyone wants to be involved, and how successful we feel this is going to be.
Yeah.
So again, April 30th, starting at 10 at the museum on 3rd Avenue. You can't miss it. It's the only big yellow building in Gallipolis. So,
well, it's an excellent example of what people working together can do, because they care, and we can't begin to thank the countless people.
Well, Jerry, we appreciate it. You can listen every week to the Talk of the Town podcast on the 8 o'clock hour on WJEH-FM 93.1 The Wolf. Also, check us out on our YouTube channel for the Gallia County Chamber of Commerce. Until next week, we'll see you then.